when you're in a suite, if you're in like the new salon suites where they have multiple, unless someone's walking around and seeing that, they're not seeing you. So you definitely have to get out. You have to let people know that you're there. And then you also have to network with the other salons that are there so that that way they know what you do and you can refer each other.
Welcome to Glow Up Boss, your one-stop shop for all things business related for beauty and glowing up on a personal level. And I am Veronique Monroe, your host, and I am sitting here with Candice Montgomery. She is a seasoned entrepreneur in the beauty industry, one of the first early adopters of airbrush tanning. And in fact, I'm delighted to say that she's actually one of my longest standing customers for Infinity Sun. So I'm so excited to introduce you to her and let her tell you all about her background, how she got to where she is today, because she's a finance expert for all things beauty, and she has an amazing course that will take you from A to Z in the beauty industry. So over to you, Candice.
Well, hello. Thank you for having me. I'm so excited to be here. Well, I started in 1996 was my first business that my husband and I opened. And I was 22 at the time, and I had no idea what I was doing. And so it was his passion that we were going after, and so I just kind of figured it out as I went. So that is the start of that. And then we were operating in our house for about 4 years, and then we moved to our own building that we purchased, and we're still there 24 years later. So in 2001, I opened up my tanning salon. I started with tanning beds first, and because I hadn't heard airbrush tanning. And then in 2002, it was this new thing that came on the news, and I was like, I want to do that. I want to do that now. And so I started doing it, and then I completely converted to sunless in 2009, and that's when I think that's when I started as a customer with Infinity Sun.
What was that like, launching the very first airbrush tanning system that brought together sunless tanning and high-end skincare in your area?
I mean, nobody knew what anything was back then. And I remember when I switched over to sunless, they were just like, oh my gosh, what is this? What is spray tanning? What is airbrush tanning? So it was different for sure. It was starting over with the customer base, because the customers that tanned in a bed didn't tan with spray tan. Now they're making that switch a lot, but there's still a lot of people that tan in the beds.
Mm-hmm. It's crazy when I think about it, Candice. From when I very first started Infinity Sun back in 2005 officially, when everybody thought sunless tanning was going to be a trend. And now, it's become an entire industry, and the evolution that we've gone through, and, starting out where people, were getting orange streaky spray tans to today where, we just have the most amazing natural looking tans in the entire industry of female entrepreneurs, that can buy a spray tanning system and start up and, grow 6 and 7 figure businesses. We've seen a lot of change. Talk to me a little bit
Yes.
about what you're seeing there.
So yes, I would say in the beginning, or even maybe 10 years back, there weren't a lot of spray tan artists in the area. And then all of a sudden it just is blown up. So I'm really excited about that, because I think that women, if they want to have their own business, that they should be able to have their own business, and they can achieve so many things that marvel what everybody else is doing, and they can do it with such ease. So
Mhm.
I just am really happy to be part of this industry.
Yeah, no, it really is remarkable. You don't have to have a tremendous education to start and run a very successful spray tanning business. You get to meet people that you would otherwise never be able to meet if you were doing anything else. One of the things I always joke about this, I went from business consulting to Fortune 500 companies, where I was dealing with, people in tech and, serious finance people to, having a spray gun spraying celebrities in their homes,
Yeah.
and I know that a lot of women now have a very similar story. We paved the way for this, and now we're seeing that this is common, spray tanning people for award shows, spray tanning people on TV shows, now the whole influencer thing is like a whole, big thing. So yeah, the industry has definitely moved in a very interesting direction.
Yes.
I guess one of the really cool things about this is we have, between the two of us here, and which is, part of what makes it really fun for us to talk to each other is, with the explosion of the industry, we bootstrapped it. We went into completely uncharted territory where we didn't have mentors. We didn't have people teaching us the lay of the land because the land didn't exist. Me as a manufacturer of sunless tanning products and an educator, over the last almost 20 years, and you as someone who started the business and didn't have a mentor to show you the way, now the women that have come after us have the opportunity of mentorships in education in an industry because we've paved the way and we've figured it all out as we've gone along, which I'm so excited to move into with you because I know that you've just launched a course and your course fits so beautifully in with what the Glow Up Boss podcast is, with respect to like all the different areas of business that you need to educate yourself on if you're thinking of starting any type of a beauty business, not just spray tanning, but any type of a beauty business. And dare I say, any type of a business. These are all things related to writing a business plan, raising financing, taxation, keeping your books, building a team, negotiating leases, like everything to do with business, branding, marketing. So I'm really excited about that. What I'm particularly excited about with you, Candice, is your finance background. So many women in our industry are great marketers. They're amazing marketers. They want to learn how to bring business to them, whether they're brick and mortar or whether they're mobile businesses, but they're afraid to talk about the money. They're afraid to talk about taxes, sales tax, doing your books. Let's focus on that for a little while, Candice. I know you can shed so much insight on that for our listeners.
Yeah, absolutely. I don't really have like an education, a formal education in finance. It's learning how to do it. But it has been a lot of years of trial and error of things and figuring out how to make it work. So I've gone all the way through it, and my husband and I became debt free in 2020 personally, and then in 2022 we were completely debt free with our businesses as well. So that took a lot of discipline for us to do that, and a lot of hard work. But it's certainly easily done. And the reason why I did it, I had a traumatic event that happened, and it kind of threw me into that. So and during this process, the IRS called and was like, "Hey, you owe us $75,000," and I'm like, "What?" So it's part of that is knowing that things I should have been doing and I didn't know, or that even though I inquired about things, I just never seemed to get all of the answers that I needed. So it's been a hard process of learning that, and that's what I want to do. Is I want to help women to not have to have those difficulties like that. I mean, yes, we all need to have difficulties so we can learn from them, but not to have them like that, where it just sidetracks you and keeps you from being able to do all the things that you need to do or want to do.
A new business owner just starting up, how would you advise them to like structure things so that they don't get into the same trouble that you got into?
Absolutely. So first thing I talk about in my course is like business structure. That's the very first thing that people need to know. And then also like business checking, that I see it on Facebook. And that was kind of going back to what we were talking about before about mentors and stuff. When we started, Google and Facebook didn't exist. So we didn't have the luxury of that. But whenever we're getting started, they think, oh, well, I can just write it out of my personal checking account. I can just mix all this stuff. And you do not want to do that. You want to have a completely separate business account, and you want to not commingle your funds at all, because it makes it very, very difficult to sort things out. So I talk about that. I talk about like understanding sales tax. A lot of people do not understand sales tax, and we even mentioned about use tax. A lot of people have not ever heard of use tax, and so they're like, "What?" So if you're not paying,
explain to our listeners what use tax is. I know a lot of people don't know the answer to that question.
yeah, so, and I didn't for a long time. So, use tax is that, for example, when I purchase solutions from Infinity Sun in California and you ship them to me, I don't pay sales tax. So, therefore, I have to pay a use tax, which is our state tax, to the state. And so, the purpose of it is to like level out the field for all of the states so that they get their income that they need to repair roads or whatever. But that's the general of the use tax is just making sure that you pay sales tax. You don't have to pay, for example, our local tax is 8.25%. So it's 6.25% for the
And you're
state
based
and
in
2%.
Texas.
Yes,
So what you're
Texas.
talking about is the state of Texas. Okay.
Right, exactly. So it's 2% for our local city. So I don't have to pay the local city part of it, but you have to pay the state. And so I don't know all of the state guidelines for that. And so I do, tell my students they need to investigate that. They need to make sure that they completely understand it, because I really tried to understand sales tax, and by calling and asking and making sure I was doing everything right. And they assured me I was, and then sure enough, they weren't, and then we have an audit and they're like, no, you owe this. And I'm like, no, I don't. I've been paying this.
Mhm.
So there's a way that you have to have your invoices set up, the way you have to have your, like whenever you're ordering things from your vendors, et cetera, that you know what you paid sales tax on and that you can prove that you paid it. That's the biggest thing, is that you can prove that you paid it.
So what do you recommend? Do you recommend that a new person maybe talk to an accountant or a tax specialist when they're setting up? Do you recommend for them to start out maybe with QuickBooks or one of the accounting systems to make sure their chart of accounts are set up correctly? What do you recommend for like a new business? Glow Up Boss podcast is brought to you today by Infinity Sun. Are you an entrepreneur thinking that you'd like to start a new business that's fun, that doesn't cost a lot of money to start up, that you could do in the evenings and weekends and earn lots and lots of money? Starting a spray tanning business definitely checks off all those boxes. With state-of-the-art plug-and-spray proprietary spray tanning systems that require only one solution, you can literally choose 30 different levels of spray on the spray tanning system itself. Infinity Sun offers sunless tanning solutions that combine high-end skincare together with sunless tanning technology to not only create the most flawless looking tans, but also to improve the condition of the skin. If you want to benefit from Glow Up Boss podcast, you can type in the checkout GUB25. That gets you 10% off your opening order for an Infinity Sun spray tanning system.
So I would definitely, that's one of the last things I talk about in my course is resources of attorneys and CPAs and insurance companies, banks, and et cetera. And I would definitely say, so a bookkeeper is just someone that's going to be keeping your books. A CPA is someone who can actually file the tax return for you. There is a difference between them and their knowledge and what they can do. So I would definitely tell them to do that, because they need to understand what's best for their business in their particular situation. Because what I do for my business is not going to be the same for you and what you do for your business and everywhere else. So definitely want to make sure that they're communicating and getting that information to structure their business right. I would not have them do the chart of accounts. I would have the accountant or the CPA do the chart of accounts. I mean, yes, there are basic ones that we all need to have, but as far as more detailed information, then I would say they definitely need to be able to do it. And then also looking at when you need to pay your taxes and how you need to pay them. There are different ways, and that you should have a savings account for taxes that you're putting aside. So because if you're a solopreneur, you're not going to have to worry about payroll taxes or anything like that, but you still have to worry about sales tax, use tax from the federal tax from the IRS, and there are a lot of states that have state income tax. In Texas, we don't have that. So, but there are a lot of states. So you have to know all the taxes that you are responsible for, because they will tell you it's not their responsibility. It's your responsibility to find that out. And if you don't know what questions to ask, or if you don't know what to look for, then you're just in the dark.
Mhm. So, because every state is different, is there like one governing body that you would tell people to like go to? Or would you just have them maybe go to the SBA, look on the SBA, their local SBA? What would be the best way for someone just starting out that maybe is limited on funds to find out this information?
So I would go to their Secretary of State.
Okay.
That's the first website, and in my course, I do give the resources for the 50 states for all the Secretary of State's websites directly, so you can go there. It'll either be the Department of Revenue in some. Ours is called a comptroller, so we have the comptroller of for Texas, and that's who does our sales tax. But definitely starting with the Secretary of State, that's where you can get your beginning information and a lot of information that you need and where you can be directed to.
That's great information, Candice. We really appreciate that a lot. So, the second thing I want to talk to you about, because I know you know an awful lot about marketing and driving customers to your business and growing your business, what tips and tricks can you give newbies just starting out on how to set themselves up? I know we've come a long way since we first started, where we didn't have social media, we didn't have, Google ads or any of those amazing, resources that we have now. So in your evolution, over time, what have you discovered that's been really helpful for you in driving traffic to your business?
I would say that probably Google My Business. Well, it's not Google My Business anymore, but it's Google Maps. So, I would say that it's probably the biggest thing right now,
Hmm.
and making sure that your profile is fleshed out, and then that you're paying attention to it, so that you're adding photos, that you're adding information, because the more you add to it, the more Google pushes you up. So I notice every single time that I post a photo or update something, then I get an influx of referrals from Google in my booking.
Hmm.
So I think that's the biggest thing. I'm not super great on Instagram and Facebook, but I do have a little bit. But I would say the Google, and there used to be a commercial, and the ladies that called it the Googler. So I
The
always I
Googler.
always say that the Googler. I'm gonna look it up on the Googler.
Yeah.
I'm
Well,
like, that's
one
what.
of the things that I find, I work with a lot of business owners. Obviously, I've, helped over 8,000 businesses around the world set up, run, and grow spray tanning businesses. And one of the things that I see that works the best is giving away free tans. Period. You know, we really believe that, people don't appreciate free, people appreciate things that they pay for, but the truth of the matter is sampling is really effective. And by offering free spray tans, you're getting the word out. So people will talk about you, people will refer friends. It's easy to sell a membership to someone once they've experienced a good quality spray tan. So I really believe in getting the word out there as quickly as you can in a really hands-on way. Like, for example, you've done a few trade shows with us. One of the things that sells our equipment better than anything else is people coming to our booth, getting a spray tan and realizing what the difference is between our technology and our solutions and everybody else's. So all spray tans aren't equal. So especially if you invest in a great system and great solutions and great training, you should be eager to like get as many people in the door or get yourself out to as many people as possible and get your tan on, get them to experience it. I think that's going to be the fastest way to grow your business.
I agree. And networking is really important. I mean, I haven't networked in a really long time, and I've been talking about that. I'm like, I need to go network
Yeah.
because I did a lot of that in the beginning for my husband's business, the air conditioning business, that I was very involved in everything. So the Chamber of Commerce, and I was an ambassador with the Chamber. And so I was in front of the public, and those relationships I still have with people. And, that's 28 years later that those are still there. So that is very powerful, but definitely, having ambassadors for your spray tan business is very important as well, and making sure that you structure that in the right way so that you're not being taken advantage of, that you're giving them something and they're giving you something as equally valuable in return
Oh my
by
God.
getting your name out there.
Let me tell you, the experiences we've had of working with influencers, that come in and
Yeah.
get a tan and they're like, "We'll tag you." And then it's like trying to, you know, you're spending all your time being like the tag, the social media police. And then
Yeah.
you don't get it, or you don't like the image that they posted. It doesn't really showcase your tan the right way. So there is definitely a way to do it, making sure you have a good agreement in place, first and foremost, that really stipulates what they're getting in exchange for their free tan or free tans and products if you're giving that to them. How many posts, what the post should look like, having the rights to review the posts. Now, it's going to be difficult, with certain influencers, but if you choose the right type, like a micro influencer, you definitely have a lot more control, over
Yes.
the content that they're going to be posting, and the frequency, the quality, the types of things, and what they're getting in exchange for it. So I totally agree. One of the things I just wanted to circle back on this, because what you said about networking, I think is so incredibly powerful. There are two things that have changed since we started in our business. Number one is Facebook groups.
Oh
There
yeah.
are groups for everything. There are beauty business groups, with makeup artists and hairstylists and estheticians and, nail artists. We live in a time right now where women are more collaborative and less competitive. So women are more likely within the same industry or within a synergistic industry to support one another and to share customer bases. So I would totally agree that networking with women in your industry or people within your industry, there's a lot of reasons to network with people that aren't in your industry as well, because obviously, that's a big source of business. But I wouldn't rule people out just because they're in your industry, because that could make you grow a lot faster and expose you to a whole new customer base. Don't you think?
I agree. Yeah, I agree completely. So, and then you want to be looking for the type of client that you want to attract. So if you're not wanting to attract young 20 somethings, then you don't want your ambassadors or your influencers to be young 20 somethings.
Know thy
So
customer, right? Knowing your
yes,
client avatar. Mhm.
yes, exactly. So and that's really hard to, I mean, in the beginning, you don't really understand that at all. And I mean, I still learn it. And so I've kind of been in that shift too, where I'm more leaning towards a more mature demographic rather than the young high schoolers. So,
Don't you find it's also a question of attracting who you are too?
right.
The season you are in your own life, you have a tendency to attract people within that season as well, don't you find?
I agree. Yeah, I agree completely. Yeah, because I mean, what I was attracting years ago, I don't. I mean, yes, I have a lot of a lot of guests that still come to me, and that have found me over the years, but they've kind of grown with me, or they're just who's somebody that you want to be around all the time. Like they're just your people. So it just depends on where you are in life, like you said.
Mhm. That's awesome. Do you have any other things? I know that you're doing a course that's kind of like A to Z, all the things to consider. Let's run through the different areas that you cover on your course.
My course is like 7 modules and like 45 lessons. I've just completely stripped it down and redone it and really kind of niche down into the beauty industry. So we start with business structure. That's a big thing. License and insurance requirements, bank accounts, as we talked about before, sales tax, federal taxes, the resources. So like I give them, how to choose an attorney or a CPA, banker, et cetera. And I give them interview questions that they can ask them and at least get a good starting point for, is this the right fit? Is this company going to work well with me? Am I going to work well with them? Do they know enough about my business?
I think it's gonna be amazing, I really do, I think it's gonna be great. Let's talk about spray tanning businesses because there are a lot of different ways that you can do spray tanning businesses. I know when I first started and I was doing proof of concept, I took a room inside of a very well-established hairdressing salon, and it grew really fast because we could capitalize on, the customer base that was already coming in there. You can do a salon suite now. You can have your own brick and mortar that's only spray tanning, or you could have like a beauty bar style business where you offer other beauty services. Let's talk a little bit about the pros and cons of all of those. There are thousands of homeless dogs in the pounds and shelters and running all over the streets, and not enough people out there to help them. Sprays for Strays is a fundraising organization that raises money through the sunless tanning and beauty industry to help all the rescues all over the United States of America pull the dogs out of the pounds and shelters, get them vetted, get their vaccinations, get them spayed and neutered, help with any sort of behavioral issues, and help to get them into their forever homes. If you'd like to donate to Sprays for Strays, go to spraysforstrays.com. Or if you'd like to become a member, we offer amazing support at Sprays for Strays to help you grow your business and save the lives of dogs at the same time. Go to spraysforstrays.com and become a member or donate. Every little bit of support helps. Thank you to our sponsor, Sprays for Strays, for helping to save the lives of dogs, one spray tan at a time.
Yeah, so I have actually never rented a suite. So I have not done that because from the time I opened my business, I owned the building. So that's a whole different set of things to do. And I personally like owning my own place because then I'm in control of everything. However, whenever I got my nail license years ago, I did do a few places where I did rental or 1099, commission, whatever. And so with every one of them, you have to market them a little bit differently because of like with us and where our building is, we're out further. We're not in the mainstream. So people don't always see us. Well, when you're in a suite, if you're in like the new salon suites where they have multiple, unless someone's walking around and seeing that, they're not seeing you. So you definitely have to get out. You have to let people know that you're there. And then you also have to network with the other salons that are there so that way they know what you do and you can refer each other.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, definitely. Well, there's definitely pros and cons to all the different types of business. Renting a room inside of an established business is great because you already have an established customer base, and as long as you negotiate correctly the arrangement with the owner of the business, making sure that you have adequate, shelf space and signage, and that you can actually go around and promote your business to the customers that are coming in. That's really great because you have like the only overhead that you have really is going to be the rent that you pay them to rent the room in the business. The salon suite's really great too because you're not paying for like all the utilities or anything like that. You're basically paying, what your overheads are going to be pretty much every single month. And you're not going to be slapped with a surprise of like triple net, taxes and,
Yes.
all the things that you get. Like if you lease a space, having a building, you can't anticipate, needing to replace your roof. I know because, haven't rented for, for many years. I typically, for me, real estate is as much a business as developing product and, all the things that we do. So I always tell the women that I coach, always go into it with the idea of owning, because your biggest income at some point is likely to be your real estate. That's like having a bank that constantly appreciates. Even when the market turns, if you hold on for it long enough, you're never going to lose out. I really believe in that. Don't you?
Absolutely. Oh yeah, absolutely. I
Yeah.
mean, that's the biggest thing. And that's why, like I said, that's why I love that we have, our building and it's not very, very large, and the parcel of land that it's on is not very large, but I mean, it's been great. I mean, like,
Yeah.
we've talked before that I don't advertise. In the beginning, I did just a little bit, especially with changing over to the sunless. But I don't advertise. I don't run ads. I don't. Everything that I had was just my word of mouth, and my vehicle had a wrapped vehicle. That's an amazing return on investment to have that, because everybody sees you. And I noticed a difference whenever I didn't have the wrap on,
Hmm.
because you're constantly in front of people. So, and especially if you're a small business, that is
Hmm.
huge. It's
Yeah.
huge.
The one model that we didn't really talk about, but it is, what you did for a while is, having a space, whether you buy the building or you lease a building and rent out spaces to other beauty business or synergistic, non-competing businesses. That's a really viable business as well. Let's speak a little bit to that, because I know a lot of women are kind of going down that route and working together. So they build like a team of, supportive women offering services and really capitalizing on each other's customer bases.
Right, exactly. And I just recently started doing that myself. I have an esthetician who rents from me, and it's really nice to have that. We go back and forth with that. We share customers. When her customers come in, they're like, "Oh, what's this?" And then same thing with mine. And I'm constantly, talking her up whenever I'm in the spray tan room, because I want her to be successful, because it's good for her, it's good for me, it's good for all of us. And
Hmm.
I've thought about having other people, but like I said, I'm like, I don't know yet. But I think it's great. One of the girls, Kristen, I'm not always sure I say her name right, but Kristen in Kansas, she has different people that work with her, and it's just awesome, especially like lashes.
Hmm.
And the thing too that I see a lot of is that there's so many different ways that you can do it. Like, you don't necessarily have to have a room with lashes. You can do, it can be out in the open, as long as you
Hmm.
have an area where you can do your service. And then
Hmm.
also I see that some girls will take turns with they'll split the room. So like they
Hmm.
might work Monday, Wednesday, Friday, and the other person works Tuesday, Thursday, Saturday, and they split the rent, and that saves them on money too. And they may do the same thing, or they may not. It just kind of depends. But
Hmm.
I think that that's great too as well, and it, especially getting started.
I love that, because that really does speak to, maybe some of our listeners that are either on the fence of starting up spray tanning businesses or are in the beauty industry, or maybe that have, dabbled a little bit in it or did it one way or are thinking about doing it another way. It's such an interesting way to get into this type of business with very low overhead. So you're really not taking a lot of risk, and especially if you're thinking of doing it as a side gig, it's not something you're looking to do full time, at least maybe not at a certain point. Maybe you have very young children and you're trying to manage your schedule, or you haven't quite left your corporate job yet and you want to kind of start something that you do a little bit maybe on the weekends or in the evenings or a little bit on the side. I think that's a really great way to start.
Absolutely, yeah. I was just kind of thinking as you were saying that especially whenever they're first starting out, with kind of talking about insurance and requirements. I saw something on a Facebook post the other day that was like, do I still need insurance if I get an LLC? And I was like, yeah, so an LLC is a business structure and insurance is completely different from that. So I think
Mhm.
maybe they were a little confused as far as what they were thinking about asset protection or, protecting their personal assets.
Yeah.
But for anybody who's renting, especially, they need to have different types of insurance to protect their things. They don't understand that as a rental, the landlord cannot cover their inventory, their items, any of their equipment, anything like that. So they're responsible for that, and they need to make sure that they're covered if anything were to happen.
Yeah, there are so many different areas, which is why I think it's really great that they have resources like ours, to be able to, when they're starting out, to know what kinds of things that they need to like really look for. So, no, I think this is absolutely wonderful, Candace. Well, I really appreciate you taking your time to come on the Glow Up Boss today to talk to me. You're not only an incredible customer, but you're also a very dear friend. And, I know that you have so much to offer women in business at varying different stages, whether they're starting a new business or they're looking to expand their business, whether it's in the beauty industry or any industry.
Yeah.
I know that you're, financially very savvy and, you're a woman of many courses and much education and, you know a lot about a lot of different things.
Yes.
So, we always have wonderful, squirrel-based conversations about a multitude of different things.
Yes. I'm always like, I just need to learn the thing because I might not want to do the thing, but I just want to learn the thing. I just want to
Just want
know
to
the
know it.
information. Yeah,
Just
that I
wanna know it.
don't.
Well, here's the thing I like to do at the end of all of my episodes is I like to give the listeners 3 actionable pieces of things to do. It's kind of like homework, and then the next episode or a couple of episodes later, we're going to come back to that and talk about those 3 things. So we'll give people the opportunity to, like, write in with questions or share experiences. So what are the 3 action items that you think our listeners should go do if they're thinking about starting up a new beauty-based business or even a spray tanning business?
First thing I would say is to look at the name that they're going to name their business. You want to look at trademarks because just because the name you like it, if it's trademarked, you might not be able to use it, and it could lead to thousands of dollars in legal fees in the
Like
future.
Glow on the Go?
Yes,
Glow on the
yes,
Go is my biggest expense defending that trademark, I'll tell you, honestly, and I haven't even reached out to everyone who's taken that name so far. I
yeah,
know you see it every
absolutely.
day.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I know. It's just like, okay. But you don't, as a small business, you don't think about that. You just think,
Yeah.
oh, that's so cool. That I really like that name, and
Yeah.
it is a form of appreciation and flattery, but I mean, we pay a lot of money for building our brands and building our names, and so that's important.
Well, I'm just
Um,
gonna add a little piece to that that's really important too is, the name that you choose, you have to choose something that can scale with your business. So like, Spray Tans by Shayna, you're probably going to be good on the trademark for the most part, but when it comes to scale, you don't have to plan for yourself to always be involved in the business. You might want to take a name that you can have a product line associated with that's completely independent of you. So, choosing your name and thinking about the future when you choose your name is actually a big deal. So, I'm going to agree with you. So, choosing a name and trademarking. So, those are 2 really good things. So, choose your name and look at the trademark and see whether or not it's available. All right, what else? Let's get one more.
So the other thing I would say would be, getting your domain and your socials that kind of go together. Is once you decide on a name, or actually a little bit before you decide on the name, once you ensure that it's not trademarked, then you want to get your socials, you want to get your domain, you want everything to match. Because when you're building the brand, everything needs to match. You don't want to be known for this over here, and I have gone through that myself with changing the name. So it's that's very important. to do, and people are like, "Oh, I don't need that at first." Yeah, you do.
And I agree with that. I had Infinity Sun and Glow on the Go long before anybody tried to have those social media handles, and because social media wasn't a thing. So I
Right.
later had to fight to get my names, and they were trademark names. So, it's an ongoing battle. So I think it's smart. Get in there, when you're choosing your name, make sure you get all of those, and also try to think a little bit about what's coming through the pipeline. We know what the social media platforms are right now, but try to preempt a little bit and look to what's coming down the pipeline and make sure that you get your name for that as well.
Right, and don't tie yourself into just one thing, because if you want to be able to offer something else, Spray Tans by Shayna, you're not going to know that they're doing lashes or facials or anything else, because that's what they're going to be known for. So, while it is wonderful to be known for one thing, if you think that you might expand in the future, then you need to think about that as well.
And that's the thing, it's one thing to be an owner operator, but you may not want to do that forever. So I think you have to think about the long term, of being able to have a viable business that you can one day sell. And it's a lot easier to sell, a company that is independent of the owner than a company that's dependent on an owner.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, we're going through that with my husband's business, because he's an owner operator, and when you're looking to sell the business, then if he leaves, then who's doing the work? So you've got to make sure that you have those things in place as well. So that's important.
100%. All right. Well, we got our action items. I'm so excited. And it was super nice talking with you today, Candice. And I really appreciate you coming on the Glow Up Boss.
Thank you for
And
having me.
I wish you a beautiful rest of the day.